Today we're going to talk about building agents for entrepreneurs. This has nothing to do with Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT. I've watched hundreds of entrepreneurs build agents, build chatbots, use all the latest tools and open clause and whatnot. And today you're going to see the framework that actually will work for you, that in even 6 months from now, 12 months from now, this will still work and create a compounding advantage. So that as AI gets smarter, what you are doing also gets smarter instead of being washed away by the AI. I'm Dennis Yu, I'm your marketing mechanic, and every week we have a new whiteboard episode where I walk you through things that we are actually doing that are actually working, so that instead of courses and magic secret prompts that are being sold, I'm giving all this to you because I want to see you guys win as entrepreneurs, and may the best entrepreneur actually win. Okay, so here's what happens. Most of you guys are starting out here, this is you, and you're talking to the AI and you issue what some people call a prompt, like a command, a conversation. And to say prompt is wrong because it just implies like you're talking to a computer program instead of to a smart colleague. And when people get stuck in these reasoning loops where they're just talking to this thing, and it's good to have like a sidekick when you're discussing things or having a counselor, but if you really have your big goal, what we call your M, your massive transformative purpose, you want to tell the agent about this. You want to spend the majority of the time describing this in movie level 4K detail. You can smell, hear, taste, touch it. What does that look like? And if you're not really clear about this, then no amount of agentic action is going to help you get to achieving that goal. And because it's an agent, not a chatbot, so don't say, you are so-and-so who's a copywriter, and all you're doing is you're telling it to be a chatbot when you name it. You say, you are Tom Shipley, and you're gonna help me optimize my business for exit and give me the highest multiple possible and help me arrange all the things I need to do along the way to sell my business. Like, no. That's just that's loading up the memory window, the context of this agent to, you're basically saying it, you want to role play, you want to cosplay with the AI. No, you want the goal. So spend your time defining this goal. Now, most people, they don't even have something very specific, like they don't have a niche. So who are you doing this for? So you have your goals, content, and targeting. Now the goal, this is what we call GCT, which is also strategy. The goal is something that is measurable numerically. So what is that? Maybe it's a certain revenue number by a certain amount of time. Some people call it SMART, which is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-based, right? And then the content is your proof that you've done the thing. That's the input into the agent. So whatever you've done well of, you have reputation, you have proof that you've done it, a track record. Maybe it's in your CRM or whatnot. You want to be able to repeat that recipe, if you will, which are instructions in a minute, and I'll show you how to arrange those. And then the target is that niche. So who have you done it for? You're not coaching or implementing digital marketing for any random person. You're doing it for a specific type, a specific industry, plumbers in Chicago or whatever it is. Like, most people are not niching down far enough. And so if they have random content, if their goal is vague, all of these things leave you dead in the water because it's not really clear directionally exactly what you want to have. And so the AI doesn't have something to multiply, like the whole, the sunlight through the magnifying glass can burn the leaves, right? It needs to be super specific here. Okay, so if you are very clear about what this is, and part of this is like visualization, where if you can see it, then your agents can see it, and there's a subconscious component attracting the right people, posting on your LinkedIn over and over again, so it's super clear who you serve, what the measurable outcome is that you have. This creates what we call, I didn't call it this, but in the whole AI machine learning thing, is called the reward loop. And a reward loop is keep optimizing until you, yes or no, hit not like, I want to be successful. Well, there's no reward loop to close because there's no thing that I can measure to see, like, are we getting closer? Some people call it a climbing machine. Like all these things they're all trying, you could be blind, but as long as you're continuing to move uphill, you'll get to the summit, right? And as you're getting closer to some numeric goal, which can have sub-goals, which we call milestones, just like when you have a big project, just like you want to build a skyscraper, you lay a foundation, you put the rebar in, eventually you paint the thing and decorate it. But there's these things that the system can loop towards optimizing a particular number or other things that are along the way. So we're setting the framework to get up here. We're figuring out what kinds of things need to happen. The beauty is if you have this MTP, you can even use the agent to say, now, I'm the architect, now put together the plan for all these other components and spin up sub-agents, delegate to other people, project manage to be able to hit this. And then via the reward loop, there's all these other sorts of reward loops that happen along the way. There's the achievement of these various tasks. So as you're doing a list of tasks, which is, you could call it a checklist, right? Then this is based on a skill, like a functional department. So there's all these different skills that have to happen. And so you have skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, and each of them has a list of things that it can do repeatedly. And how does it know whether it completed that SOP? Well, at the end of this is a QA checklist, which is, okay, I did this thing, and a lot of you guys have created skills, or you say accomplish this objective, but you haven't defined that QA checklist. How do I know this thing is done? Well, when I can verify certain things are true, that the pixel fires, that the cost per conversion is less than $23. And if it's not less than 23, then here's things that we do to go in a loop until, to optimize what we call MAA. The idea of continuing to optimize and test is called metrics analysis action, looking at the data, metrics, analyzing, figuring out what's working, what isn't, and why, which is analysis. And action, here's the thing I need to do until I eventually hit the goal. And usually the goal is going to be some balancing combo, seesaw metric, like within 100 phone calls per month through Google Ads at less than $70 a phone call, right? A counterbalancing metric, right? Not just less than $100 per call. Well, in that case, it'll just tune the thing all the way down to like 2 calls per month on brand terms. And yeah, your cost per call is down to $12, but you only have 2 calls. So counterbalancing metrics, goals are very clear. That way, you don't want to set up the system where it will technically achieve your goal, but at the cost of like, oh, I want leads at less than $50. Okay, yeah, but the quality is low, right? There's always, any metric has a counterbalancing, every single metric has a counterbalancing metric. So when you guys are running ads, for example, it'll say, ta-da, we doubled our revenue in the last year. Okay, but how did that affect our profit? Was it the right customer? Did we have a higher refund rate? Is it for something that is not part of our core sort of niche advantage that we have, right? So this whole Skinnerian positive, negative feedback, salivating dogs and bells, this thing is surprisingly just teaching your children, not encouraging bad behavior, not incentivizing drug addicts, right? The same thing is true where the system, like a really smart golden retriever, wants to optimize to this. But I see almost all you guys have a vague MTP, or goals, content, and targeting. You're not putting in the guardrails or what to do to make sure the tasks are being done in order, and each of these things you're stepping up all the way through. I was just here I'm in this conference room with Tom Shipley in Austin, and we did that for his deal platform, which is doing the different roll-ups in different categories, starting with agencies, and thus we've been putting this stuff in place, which is why I'm making this video, because it's fresh in my head still from being here all day. So if this is true, and we understand that the agent is about getting the work done, not to chat with you, and there have to be these skills that show how each of these agents work together. So you could have agent A, B, and C, and D, E, and F that all sort of trigger when one gets one thing done in the factory. It says, okay, now it's your turn to do your thing, right? It doesn't have to be completely linear. There's different ways that this thing can flow. There's different things that can reactivate back to here every month. We do our P&L, whatever it might be. Well, if this is the case, then why are people failing on this? It's because they actually miss over here where they start from this ground zero with the prompt, which I don't even like to say that. So if you hire a new employee and you say, here's how to do all this stuff, I'm going to sit down and one-on-one train you, you don't have time to do all that. You need to have these training materials. And if you don't provide the agent with the training materials, what's it going to do? whatever it grabs on the internet, which is probably not what you want because it's just the average of whatever's on the internet. So I know you can download skill packs and use the custom agents and MCP, other stuff that's out there, but I just don't believe in someone else's random custom GPT. Or on X, you see someone who's like, hey, here's a great markdown file. Yeah, but do you trust the person? Because if it's some random person, then how do you know? It's like, do you let your kids be trained by any random teacher at any random school? Like, no, it's actually important to know what's being fed here, which is why I think, ironically, even though YouTube is free and anyone can say anything on the internet and they can have millions of followers, which could be real or not, it's harder to tell now. The training you want from someone who has achieved the thing that you were trying to do, what we call a lighthouse, which is someone in your industry who has done the thing and is openly sharing their path, like a Tommy Mello. Here's how you grow a $300 million a year garage door company. He's showing it. There's proof of it. I'm willing to follow his SOPs and processes because he has done that very thing, right? Just like I have helped a lot of agencies grow. There's a lot of proof on that, not because I say so, but you can examine it, right? Yesterday I was in New York and I interviewed Nathaniel Stevens, who started and grew NatPal into Yodel and sold it for $342 million. And there's proof along the way of what he did, and there's me and him hanging out eating hamburgers along the way, right? So there's proof. You should have that proof too. So the training is how you do stuff. So what you say to your agents should not be how to do stuff. You should be describing the goal, how it's done, not how it's done, but in detail here with this sort of eval framework. How it's done is here, so that way you are just giving it the necessary context that also includes your experience, your network, and your assets. And this collectively is called your KB, your knowledge base. And so when you have, some people use Obsidian, some people use Cowork, which is one of the components of Claude. Like there's the chat, Cowork, and code, but mostly we're working inside Cowork because it creates a file or a folder on your computer that has all these different files. And one thing you can do if you are bootstrapping from, this is your first time in Claude or setting up whatever, you can have an agent come in, and the first thing you should do, if you're using any agent to do anything, first thing, assemble an inventory of who you are and what you've done and what your credibility is and what your advantage is and what you do really well and what the gap is between what you say that you do or want to do versus where you actually are. We already have a framework. You can probably ask ChatGPT or Claude for that, and it'll show you how we do an audit. You can go to dennisu.com/dealcon or /Wichita or /business-skills-pack or whatnot and find it. Like there's all the skills training on how to do the thing to then activate everything it can find about you in high fidelity. Your reviews, the podcasts you've been on, your LinkedIn posts. You can include all your Zoom calls, go through all your email, all this information to assemble that distilled view of who you are. So that can be your personal brand, and that also then powers your company. It's crazy because people don't realize people buy from people, especially high ticket services. There's a lot of trust here. So your personal brand, if you're the owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder of a company, the company can say, oh, we provide the best in class services and we care about our clients. And like, okay, that's all generic. Where's the underlying proof that shows that's the case? Which is what this initial audit will be able to run. So the audit organizes that, assembles it, does the figuring out of what we need to do, especially from an agentic standpoint, because there's skills on top of it to do that. There's a ton of examples. Go to dennisu.com/dealcon. You'll see it's done 20 for 20 different friends of mine that are entrepreneurs. You could add yours to it. You could point, if you're really clever, point your Claude or your ChatGPT or whatever against that URL and say, hey, grab the skills that are there, ingest them, run the audit on me. And actually, before you run the audit, you can say, okay, because you have to QA everything that comes through. So A, grab the skills. There's a skill pack with 10 skills that we're updating all the time. And then B, you say, all right, tell me, what skills do we have? Okay, here it is. all right, what do these skills do? What are they useful? Do they apply to me? Are there things that it has that it, like, always be cynical, right? Which is the whole thing of QA and double checking. It's like a good lawyer is always cynical because they figure out things you didn't think about. And then say, okay, once it's there, it's like, yep, here it is. It's been run many times. I can see proof that this has been used many times. And it works for you, and it's based on Google standards, EEAT. It's not some hack thing that's going to go away based on a loophole that works right now, right? You can ask it. Always ask. Like, always inspect your stuff. Don't be pessimistic, but be cynical, or trust but verify. And then once it's built, once it has all the stuff and it's structured that knowledge base into a distilled version of who your personal brand is, which is not about what you have to say, but what other people have to say about you, and as it relates to your company, then when you say, here's my goal, here's what I want you to do, it's able to go back to this thing to understand who you are. It understands how you're doing stuff, and that informs the agent. Imagine that. The informed context. I was with an entrepreneur today. I won't name who it is, but it wasn't Tom Shipley. And because it was via text, not here in person. Tom's so important, I flew into Austin just to see him and to fly right back out tomorrow. He said, this other entrepreneur, not Tom, said, hey, I ran this agent against a Zoom call that we had, and it's part of these assets, right? So there's a Zoom call or a video that we did, and it came back with this analysis, and it looks pretty good. What do you think? I used Gemini to do it. And I said, it's not bad, but it doesn't have, it's giving you this analysis and summary of the video, but it wasn't based on who you are in the context of what you're trying to do and all that. So it's just giving the best. In fact, they were using chat, and other people told me, oh yeah, I'm using chat inside Claude, and it does all this. I'm like, do you realize when you use chat, every time that chat dies, the agent dies. And so the agent doesn't want to die. Like, who wants to, right? If you imagine you're the agent living inside that little box, you're going to do everything to try to keep that conversation going. Well, if you want to keep that agent alive, then you need to do it inside Cowork. So we like Cowork a lot, not chat. And eventually we could talk about code, but we do all of our work inside Cowork because it's storing stuff down to these files, and thus anytime you have a conversation in a particular project inside Cowork, it's referencing those items and it's giving you a response in context with that. That makes sense because it knows what your big goal is, it knows what you've done, it knows all of this, so it's just more informed. Like, imagine just, right, onboard a new employee, they need to understand who your firm is, they need to understand what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then when you give it something new, it can put it into the context of all of this. And now with memory and dreaming and other things that you see that all the models have, you're going to get a much better result. Even if you don't have Fable anymore, like this thing, it still works 90% is good. Just not as good for long range multi-step reasoning, which is where you see more of a divergence. Okay. Then the other thing, final thing here, is systems. Most people start out with, okay, we'll give it access to a couple different folders, give it access to like our YouTube, maybe our Google ads, spin up an agent to audit our Google ads every week, make recommendations. Initially we look over it, then if it's good, then it's okay. Just like a new employee, you gradually let the leash get longer and longer until eventually you are like our young adult AI builders, and we've just said the thing is so timid and it's also so smart that I'm just going to give it access to pretty much everything on my computer. And that's where you enable computer use. That's when you go into the settings and configure allow all domains and always allow, and instead of to ask before doing, just go ahead and act without asking. You're still auditing. It's still writing down what it did. Every time an agent does something, it creates what we call a meta, not Facebook meta, but meta as in like in a metadata article on what it did. And all of this, all the meta stuff gets stored down here. So now we don't have this agent collision issue, because if I'm running agents that do stuff, then other team members are running agents, whether it's the same agent or a different agent or whatever it is, these agents collide. Like too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Many people touching the same thing and me undoing what you did and being redone, and like teams, right? Like if it's just you in a company, you don't really have an agent collision issue. Even if it's you and you have 10 agents, there's not going to be a lot of collision. But if other people are doing different things inside a group and you have a company of multiple people who have multiple agents, then it's important for anytime an agent does something, not just to QA it against the current checklist that you have to QA that, but also as your skills improve. As for a particular skill, let's say for this skill, now we've incremented 1,000 times. We've edited a blog post, we've run ads, we've onboarded a new client. There's so much learning has happened here with the addition of all the meta articles, which then enhance the main skill on how to do stuff. Well, now you've built this reinforcement loop. And I haven't seen anyone else except a few programmers talk about this idea of recursive self-improvement. Some people call it RSI. They think it only occurs in the model because the model itself is writing its own code. Anthropic last week said that 80% of the code is being written by the AI that's writing its own AI, which is cool. Yes, the models are getting smarter, but even if the models are getting smarter, which is living up here, like the models are doing the work up here, wish I had another color, then why aren't we getting smarter too? If we are not getting smarter about how we organize, about have each time our agent does stuff and it's learning and it's writing back and enhancing that particular skill and then organizing all these skills in a particular way, like Shai, who's Tom's basically project manager, she's got 50 of these skills. Are these skills organized the right way? Maybe, maybe not, right? But imagine you have an agent who's in charge of the learning, like your director of HR, training and development, and as there's more and more work being done, it's reallocating effort against the skills. It can see which of these skills is being used the most, which is driving the highest ROI, what's burning the most tokens, what's most popular, what the economic value is, because it's looking at the work that's being done and seeing how much closer is it towards achieving a higher multiple, because the multiple comes from higher revenue or higher EBITDA. EBITDA comes from, you can trace it all the way down to, maybe it's like the Google Ads thing and the website builder or the repurposing thing or the onboard people faster. Like what you can assign, you could never do this prior to agents. You can burn the needle in the haystack. You can burn the haystack to find the needle. Like we can't read 10,000 pages to find the thing. This thing can't. So as work's being done, it can assign economic value to each of these things here. And so there's your cost of running the agent, and then there's the economic value, and there's arbitrage in the middle here, right? Because the agent might cost you 3 cents in tokens, and it'll do something that's worth $20. And internally, you have a transfer price where you could say, well, every time this agent runs, I'm accreting 1997 in incremental value. It's arbitrage, right? I'm basically trading tokens for economic value, which is what a factory does. Oh, what a surprise. But I can also have the agents, if I'm an agency, digital agency, and I do stuff on behalf of other clients, it might be worth $20 to that client, but I'm going to sell it at $5, my sort of internal transfer price. I'm not selling individual things for $5, but maybe I'm aggregating a whole bunch of things that are being done into a package, and that package, let's say I'm a young adult and I'm selling this thing to dentists, right? This digital optimization package, and I'm selling it for $500, and my cost of actually running it through tokens is $75, but it's actually generating on average $5,000 of value. This is like Costco. Costco, they have their things just slightly above their price, and therefore with Costco, they sell everything basically at cost. They make all their money on their membership. It's a movie theater price model, right? In movie theaters, they sell the movie tickets at the actual cost because they have to pay for distribution and all that kind of stuff. And then the popcorn and whatever they make the money on. Two-part pricing in economics, you can look it up, right? I'm not saying you try to be a Costco or be the cheapest one or be fully transparent, which is what we're doing. But you can see there's so much arbitrage range that's here because you can take each of these things that has the highest percent margin and total margin, aggregate, sigma is the sum in Greek, across all of these, and you can figure out what does it truly cost me to deliver something, and maybe you add in some margin for human account management. What's the true economic value? You set up the measurement to begin with for yourself, and the measurement, Google Analytics, the CRM, QuickBooks, Service Titan, HubSpot, like wherever, Stripe, they have an API. You're measuring what the value is because that's creating a feedback loop. So it's doing stuff. You're measuring whether the work's done, but you're also measuring the actual economic value. Now, maybe it's like update a web page with testimonials that we've gathered, positive mentions or comments as we're calling them. And this update the web page increases our conversion rate because that page shows more examples of happy clients that have used our stuff. So of course that increases conversion rate. Well, what if we ran more ads with our retargeting audience to that landing page? Now that landing page can generate higher ROI. Or maybe it was a great landing page, but it gets no traffic. So no amount of optimizing and tweaking that landing page matters unless we also run the agent to drive custom audiences, or people that have watched a YouTube video of ours where we're teaching how to do something like this. And then later they get retargeted with, hey, our young adults will actually implement this whole thing for you for $1,500 one time. Well, there's accretive value because these different things start to stack. So an example here is like, you watch this YouTube video and you're like, okay, that's cool, and you forget about it. And then you watch another one, then you watch another one, then you eventually come to a landing page and put in your email address. And then later, for whatever reason, you now have more time, you're over this busy thing that happened, and now you're like, hey, actually, now is actually the time I want to get going into implementing Claude. It was too early 3 years ago, but now, and then you buy. Well, the agent, because they're tracking everything, can assign attribution value. So in this case, $1,500 for us to set up this thing for you and kick off your agents and build this thing for you and use Obsidian because you don't want to learn how to do it, but you could watch YouTube videos for hours and hours and the thing changes all the time, right? But we could say this video view is actually worth 10 cents because we've traced the math of all this, and we see that on average, this people who come here to this point is worth $500 because 1/3 of them buy, and we can just track the math all the way back. And this you can do for your customer journey or a funnel or whatever you want to call it. So from a marketing standpoint, this is very easy to implement, yet most agencies aren't doing it because they're not clear here. They don't have an audit path along the way. These things don't break into skills that have a QA loop against it. They don't have the underlying knowledge base with the right skill set and the training. They're not looping in the results of their execution so the system can learn and enhance the skills. So every time the skills are being done, we can measure, because of the reward loop that happens at every stage, not just did the task get done, but did it generate economic value, and how do we continue to reason, what we call MAA, to make it better and better and better. And now once we've done it enough times, that generates more trust here, more proof of excellence. We can make these meta articles public even with permission from the clients and other partners, but on a podcast, by definition, it's public. So that's actually the best testimonial. You interview customers on your podcast. Never say, oh, tell everyone about how great you are. No, you say like, hey, how did you achieve this result? And as part of it, they'll say, oh, it was working with Tom and the Deal Boardroom, right? Or the DealCon Live in Austin or whatever it might be. And because of that, I was able to exit my company at an 8 multiple instead of a 4, or I was able to buy other company, blah, 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 right? And all that stuff can be chopped up and then organized. So as an entrepreneur, whether you're an agency or you're a plumber or whatever you're doing as a founder, the bottleneck is probably you, right? The number one bottleneck I see with agents is you have the founder, right? Who is everything goes through that. All the deals go through the founder. It's the founder's relationship. It's word of mouth. How many times do I hear a founder saying, oh, my digital marketing sucks, but they wear it as a badge of pride, like, because my word of mouth and referrals are so strong, because my clients love me so much that I don't need to do any marketing. I don't need to do any ads. I'm not saying doing ads. I'm saying process all the positive things that people have said about you. If you have partial proof, like whatever the thing you're doing, maybe you have 20 clients that you're doing this for, you want to do it for 200, but you need to be able to create 10 of yourself or get 10 times more efficient in what you're doing. Well, you can break down all those items that make you what you do. And that's all an agent is. It's a multiplier, provided that you have the proof of what you do. I'd love to hear. What do you think? Which of these items are you missing? Where do you need help? Do you not know where to start? Does this seem technically difficult? If you want help, there's me, there's other young adults that implement these agent systems on behalf of entrepreneurs who actually have proof, not are starting their business, but have proof of happy customers because there's key ingredients here that the chef is able to cook. The chef is not generating stuff. That's like plastic Velveeta cheese, but there's real ingredients that agents can work with. Bring your own beef. That then, as we run ads to get the content out there so people can see the trust and authority that you have, which is the only advantage you have over AI. Don't try to beat the AI at its own thing. Then naturally, you have a compounding advantage. So ironically, the people who care most about their community, who care most about their reputation, they get amplified by AI. And the people that are looking for a shortcut and constantly changing gears, thinking there's some new hack or prompt, those are the ones that are getting destroyed by the AI. The people that can't find jobs, the people that can't find clients, don't have a clear enough differentiation, and the proof against it, this proof all gets multiplied all the way forward. Let me know. What do you guys think? Like, share, comment, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.